Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here today with another Friday Reads. I am trying to squeeze in this recording because my son and his girlfriend are staying with us most of this week. They are leaving on a month-long, amazing cross-country road trip. You would not believe how many places they're visiting. And they leave from here on Saturday. Now, they just left. My husband's driving them up to the airport to pick up their rental SUV for the trip. They have to go back home to Long Island today, unfortunately, because she has one last final exam, and then they'll be back down here. So it's going to be a really busy week. I have a very brief time before I have to run out the door for a haircut appointment. So I'm going to try to squeeze this in. And yeah, I don't even have my book mug with me this morning. It's in the dishwasher. Things are a little crazy. So I am still reading Honey by Victor Lodato. I am almost finished with it now. Loving, loving, loving this book. Victor is a Booktopia author from 2017. He was there at that time for his earlier novel, Edgar and Lucy, which my mother and I both loved. Highly recommend that. Honey is similarly just beautifully written, amazing characters, twisty, unexpected plot. It's excellent. It's about a woman in her 80s who escaped from her mob family in New Jersey when she was a young adult, went to college, started working in the art world at auction houses, moved out to LA, and lived this wonderful, happy life in LA. And then after her two closest friends died, she decided in her 80s to move back to the small town in New Jersey where she grew up. It's kind of a way to, she's not even entirely sure why she moved back, but she's trying to kind of reckon with or make peace with the violence that she grew up with and the horrible things she saw as a child and a teenager, saw and experienced. So she is back in town. She is in her 80s. So she's attending an awful lot of funerals of old friends here in her hometown too. So she is thinking about aging and about death. There's some rumination here, but there's also an awful lot that happens here. Her family is still involved with the mob. Her brother has died and her father as well. But her nephew, she thinks, is still in the family business. So there's a whole thing here about attempts to reconnect with her family, though she's not sure she really wants to. She's got a grandnephew who does not fit in, and she can really relate to that and wants to help him. She still loves art, so that's a part of this novel as well. It's just wonderful. The character is wonderful. I've really loved it. I've got loads of pages. Yes, sorry, it is dog-eared. It's an ARC. I've got loads of pages marked with wonderful quotes. Victor's just a great writer. Really enjoying Honey by Victor Lodato. Definitely recommend both this, which is a new release, and Edgar and Lucy from a few years ago. On audio, I am listening to a wonderful middle grade novel, The Sky at Our Feet by Nadia Hashidi. I should have written it down, but I think I got the title and the name right. So as I explained last week in Friday Reads, I was looking for an audio that would fit for the Spoonie Readathon, which is going on in May. This is all about chronic illness, disabilities, people living with chronic medical conditions. That's what it means to be a spoonie, something I can relate to. This middle grade novel is about a 12-year-old boy whose parents are from Afghanistan. He was born in the US. His mother, after his father dies and his mother's student visa runs out, she's here illegally. And one day she gets picked up by the INS. He sees this. He is left all alone. His father died in Afghanistan, helping the US military as a translator. He's all alone now. Doesn't know if his mother's been sent back to Afghanistan or what is happening, though he can see the headlines in the news that, things are still violent and horrible in Afghanistan. So he's worried about his mom. The only thing he knows to do is get on a train to New York City and look for his aunt. Not technically his aunt, but a close friend of his mother's, who he's always called aunt, and who his mother always told him to go to if he ever needed help. Things don't quite go as he planned, though. He just makes it to Penn Station in New York when he passes out, hits his head, and wakes up in the hospital. So the police want to know who he is. He's like a John Doe, a mini junior John Doe. The police are there and want to know who he is. The medical professionals are very kind to him, but he's afraid if he tells them who he is and that he's alone, he'll end up, he's heard horrible stories about the foster care system, about being in the system. He's worried that's where he's going to end up. So he won't tell them who he is. He pretends he doesn't remember. But while he's in the hospital, he meets a girl his age named Max. So something's definitely going on with Max. She's got electrodes all over her head. They meet in the game room on the children's ward. So Max and Jason hatch an escape plan. They trust each other. Jason tells Max the true story of why he's there. And they hatch an escape plan to get out of the hospital and to go find his aunt. So much of this novel is this sort of adventure story of two kids on their own in New York. But you've got these very serious issues behind the scenes. Jason's mom being picked up and possibly deported. Jason being on his own, not knowing if he can find his aunt's house. Max has secrets of her own that she hasn't, at the beginning of this adventure, that she hasn't confided in Jason yet. The reason she's really in the hospital. She's told him a funny story, but it's not the real reason she's there. So she is dealing with a serious medical condition, which makes this perfect for the Spoonie Readathon. This is a wonderful novel. I am so enjoying it. Lots of things happen. This is definitely an adventure, but with some interesting, serious themes running through it. Definitely recommend that as well. I forgot last week that the week before I said I would also do what I do on my blog and let you know what my husband and son are reading. My husband is currently reading The Trail of Seven Pines by Louis L'Amour. This is one of his dad's old books. His dad passed away a couple of years ago at 97. While we were doing our big book cleanup, which we're still only halfway through, he uncovered this among his dad's things and decided to read it. He said it's as you would expect, kind of a classic Western with the good guy and the bad guy. But I think he's enjoying it. He's quite a way through it now. Our son loves epic fantasy. He is currently reading, as he has been for a couple of weeks now because he's been preparing for the trip, An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. This is book 2 in a series he's enjoying, the Licanius trilogy. He reread book 1 first, which is what he does. He's enjoying book 2, but like I said, he's been very busy. Right out of the line of my sight here, there's a big pile of their bags in our hallway. They're getting ready for this big trip. Now, when he was a kid, he always brought a full duffel bag full of books for our road trips. Now, he's traveling with his girlfriend. I don't know if he'll read quite as much on the trip, but I'm sure he's bringing some books along. One more quick update, and that is that I got wonderful book gifts for Mother's Day. So I'm just going to show those to you really quickly. My husband and my son showered me with gifts on Mother's Day. I got piles of gifts, lots of new clothes, which I really needed because I lost a lot of weight last year and the beginning of this year. So excited about that too, but I wanted to share the books with you. Dig by A.S. King. I had told my husband that A.S. King was one of those authors I've heard marvelous things about that I have never read. That's the commonality with these first three books. They were on my list of authors I really want to read that I've never read. So he picked out Dig for me. I see it won the Prince Honor. Very, very excited to dig into this. Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I can't wait to read this. I've heard so many great things about it. I've heard so many great things about James McBride. Never read him. So this was a great pick. Can't wait to dive into that as well. Ditto for Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I've heard so many people, bloggers, booktubers, friends, just rave about how much they loved this book. So very excited about that. And this is one I specifically asked for because my own Big Book Summer Challenge starts in a week. Can you believe it? It's hard for me to believe. May is just, well, and Memorial Day is a little early this year. So yeah, it's coming up fast. So I had picked this out as my Big Book Classic for this year. I found out it's not actually a classic. It was published in 1985, but Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. So my plan is to read this in June. It definitely qualifies for Big Book Summer. I didn't know it was this big. It's almost 900 pages. But it will also qualify for June on the Range, which I decided last year I'd like to participate in. So this is going to keep me busy the whole month of June, but I'm excited to dive into it. A modern classic, let's say, that I've never read. The Big Book Summer Challenge, everyone is welcome to participate. You don't need to read a chunkster this big. Any book of 400 or more pages counts. Ebooks, audios, print books, YA, middle grade, anything you want, fiction, nonfiction, totally up to you. And you only need to read one big book of 400 or more pages. And you've got the whole summer from next Friday until early September. So I hope you'll join the fun. Lots of booktubers enjoyed it last year. One last book I got for Mother's Day from my son, The Keto Diet, which I really needed a keto cookbook. So really excited to dive into this. Lots of delicious looking things in here. Really excited about that too. Okay, so when I see you next Friday, well, I'll post a video on Tuesday, as I usually do, but when I see you next Friday, it will be the kickoff for Big Book Summer. And in the meantime, please let me know in the comments down below what you're reading this week.